Hey guys, welcome back. Or if this is your first time, welcome. I'm Nick and this is the Classic Nation YouTube channel where 100% of our content is classic and muscle car related. We post a video once a week every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific. We'd love it if you'd join and subscribe to the channel and stick along for the ride. Now, today's video, I'm going to go over my 3 favorite muscle car modifications or upgrades. Ones I've actually done to my own cars and I've enjoyed over the years. They might not be what you think. Stick around. Let's get into it. The first upgrade, and the one that I always recommend, maybe my favorite upgrade ever, is a quick ratio steering gearbox. Now, what do I mean when I say that? Well, my car, my 65 Impala, came from the factory with a 20-to-1 steering ratio gearbox. That meant it took about 4 turns, a little more than 4 turns, from lock to lock, one way to the other. Now, I swapped that out. I pulled a box from a Z28 Camaro, mid-70s, I think, which was a 12.7-to-1 steering gearbox, which is about 2.5 turns lock to lock. So it's a lot more responsive. I have a lot better road feel, and it just makes the car a lot more fun to drive. If anyone's ever done a 3-point turn in an old car that hasn't had this upgrade, you're turning the car a ton of times and cranking the wheel back and forth. This upgrade makes that car feel a lot more modern without losing the connectivity that you feel with an old car that has that manual type of a steering, or power steering for that matter. Doesn't matter. The quick ratio steering gearbox is an upgrade I definitely recommend. Now, my number 2 upgrade, one that you probably didn't think would have ever made the list, a more modern tire. Now, this is important to me for a lot of reasons. Back in the 50s and 60s, even before that, the popular tire, pretty much the only tire that you can get, was what was called a bias ply. Now, a bias ply refers to the chords of the tire were actually at 45-degree angles to the construction of the tire, whereas a more modern radial tire is perpendicular to the actual tread pattern on the tire. Now, what that meant was these old bias ply tires didn't transfer anything from the road into the tire very well. It was super rigid, not very good for comfort, and also not very good for control. That's why they did away with those. They don't really even make bias ply tires anymore unless you look really hard. In certain applications. Now, a modern radial tire is going to do a lot better job for almost any driving condition. Unless you have a perfectly restored Conqueror's kind of a car, I would recommend upgrading to a modern tire. For my cars, I love to drive them, so I actually go for kind of a sticky tire on the road because when paired with modern handling stuff like suspension, shocks, springs, even coilovers, a modern tire can give your car so much more road feel and give you a better driving experience without having to spend a ton of money. It's also safer too, works in conjunction with newer brakes. So all of those are super high ticket items, brakes and suspension. Modern tires don't have to be that expensive, but they could turn your car handling around, make it night and day different for not very much. So that's why number 2 on my list is modern tires. Now, the third item on the list, nope, not engine, not turbochargers, not fuel injection, although all of those might be runners-up to this item, and they're a lot of fun and they have their place. This is an overdrive transmission, makes number 3 on my list. Now, I'm not even talking about manual specifically or automatic specifically. Either one of those are fantastic upgrades to probably what was produced and sold with your 50s or 60s car when it came from the factory. But a modern transmission makes a car so much more fun to drive. For me, because I do a lot of road trips, I take it out on the highway, and I love to have a 373 gear, but also be able to run down the highway at 70 miles an hour at 2,000 RPM. And it's the overdrive transmission that lets you do that. Back in the day, if you had 373 or 411 gears, you could barely go 50, 60 miles an hour without winding your car out and putting a ton of undue stress on the engine. So a modern overdrive transmission, be it manual or automatic, really makes your engine's life a lot easier, and it'll increase the pleasure of driving. Because when you're not running down the highway or freeway at 4,000, 5,000 RPM, too loud to even have a conversation, you get a lot better gas mileage, your engine lasts longer, and it's just a lot more pleasurable to drive. It's easier on all the components. To be able to have that overdrive. And in a lot of cases, you can then change your rear gear out. If your car came with a 273 or 307 gears, putting an overdrive transmission lets you get the best bang for the buck, and you can actually step up your rear end gear game and go with that 373, 410, 411 gears. Give you a lot better takeoff, and the overdrive transmission still going to let you run down the highway at normal freeway speeds that modern traffic is used to. So if you drive your car a ton, a modern transmission that has an overdrive or two, I'm looking at you, Tremec T56 Magnums, that's something you definitely want to consider. So there you go, guys. That's my list. Power steering gearbox, modern tires, overdrive transmission. Overdrive transmission is a big ticket item. I get it. It's a ton of money. But the first two you can get relatively cheap, and I guarantee it'll change your driving experience in your old classic car. It'll make it night and day different. You're going to really enjoy it. So I hope this video is helpful. If you thought I left something out, if there's something that you think is more important from a driving standpoint than the three things I mentioned, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much.